Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Ask Me Anything presented by Mosher Consulting. I'm your host, Angel Leon, Mosher's Director of Personnel. We are back, ladies and gentlemen, after a well-deserved winter break. Ask Me Anything is back for season 3, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but again, season 3. We're so excited. Bruce and Bryan is here, and today we have a great guest to start us off. With us today is Bryan Neale, current NFL referee / umpire and founder of Blind Zebra, an elite sales and client success training company located right here in Indianapolis. We also have Mosher's Director of Business Development, Matt Wren, who's joining us to speak with Bryan about his perspective from a sales standpoint. Bryan, it's a pleasure to have you on Ask You Anything today. I didn't go too deep on your bio because I wanted you to tell us more about yourself, how you became an NFL umpire, and how Blind Zebra came to be.
Yeah. So first, thanks for having me on. It's great to be with you, and have watched your group over the years, and it's really, really great to be here to chat about it. The question about a referee umpire is very funny, not funny, but it's a very confusing thing. So you think of a sports official generically as a referee, but there are 7 referees, generic, on the NFL football field. We each have a different position. There's a referee, an umpire, a line judge, a down judge, a field judge, a side judge, and a back judge. So I'm technically in the field, the umpire. But if you said ref or ump, I'm going to listen either way. I know what you meant. But the backstory on Blind Zebra, I've been in sales my entire professional life. I started selling toilet paper for Procter & Gamble in 1991. And over those years, learned and made lots of mistakes and got lots of help and became lucky a lot and unlucky a lot, and fell in love with coaching and development. And the only things I knew was personal development. That was kind of a passion of mine, and selling. And I kind of put those two together, and I've been doing this for about 23 years. I fancy myself a salesperson first and a coach second. I'm constantly selling my own deals. I'm trying to stay sharp. I make mistakes. I just had a situation this past week. I made a huge mistake with one of my biggest clients. And that's why we do this, to do it to learn. It's the same thing like I do on Sundays in the football field. You work your tail off trying to chase perfection. Don't catch it. Learn from your mistakes and try again and try again. Blind Zebra is kind of a play on that thing. So I was thinking, I want to put my referee story in our brand. And I thought, how can I do that? So I put some nouns and adjectives down, like a big list of what they call us. And zebra was one of the nouns that they blue, zebra. I'm like, that's cool. Then I went adjectives. Well, the problem is I couldn't say any of the adjectives in public because they're not nice words. But blind was just, I'm like, there you go, you're blind, rough. I'm like, so that's where I came up with Blind Zebra. And everything is on purpose. Our logo, the BZ, is just kind of a punchy logo. But the yellow, we throw yellow flags. And that's why the yellow is part of our accent color. So it's all on purpose, nothing fancy.
I have so many questions about the selling toilet paper as your first job, but I'm going to stop there because I don't want to go down that route. But that Blind Zebra bit, that's actually very clever because that's what most people say about umpires in the NFL. They're blind. They miss calls. So
they say other things. I know they say other things, right?
Yeah, I bet they do. But before we move on, Matt, thanks for joining us as well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on, Hill.
All right. So I want to start with a subject that I think is very neat, and it's something that I know you definitely talk a lot about, Bryan. And I want to touch on the importance of building your own personal brand. When somebody hears that, what should be the first thing that comes to mind? How much would you say it has to do with the first impression?
It's a really good question. I'm also a podcast host, so I hope this isn't offensive. I'm going to change your question. I think the first thing that they should think about is the last thing they should think about. Because what most people do when you say personal brand is they think about the things that I don't think has anything to do with personal brand. So they think about things like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, picture, influencer, videos, those sorts of things around personal brand. They think it's flashy. It has to be cool and clever. It has to be exciting and fun and all that jazz. And I don't think that is anywhere close to where people should start. The place that I think everyone should start when they hear personal branding is with sounds a little hokey, but it's where I tell people to start with personal branding is their truly authentic self. That's where your personal brand starts. And it can't start anywhere else. You can't build a personal brand from the outside in. And so many people try to do that. They're like, oh, I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to do my thing. And when I'm going to be this guy or that gal and do this and that. And it's all, if it's fake, it's fake. Everyone sees right through it. And all of us know these people, right? We see some famous people. We know Dr. Phil. If you know Dr. Phil's story, he built his brand because he was counseling Oprah Winfrey in a legal dispute. The Cattlemen's Association of Texas was somewhere, I don't know where, was suing her. And everyone's afraid of Oprah because she's Oprah. He went to her and said, hey, sis, if you don't change your tune here, these guys are going to lock you up. Went real direct at her. And that's just who he is. And look at him now. Now he's one of the highest paid TV guys ever, but he's his authentic self. You don't see him in like a blue jeans and a medium t-shirt, do you? He wears a suit and tie. It's Dr. Phil. It's who he is at his core. So the first place when people say personal branding, you're like, where do I start? I don't even have a LinkedIn account. I don't know about Instagram. I'm not good on camera. You're starting at the wrong place. You start with your authentic self and your heart and soul and build it outwards from there.
So building off of that a little bit more, obviously, if you're being true to yourself, right, that first impression always counts. It's always, it goes back to sales. It goes back to any interaction that we have with any other individual, any other organization.
Without question. And when, there's some generational, transferring going on in the world right now, which I'm really happy about. So I'm a Gen Xer, and then there's, millennials behind us, and then Gen Z. So my kids are Gen Z and they're in high school and college now. And then before me was baby boomers and the greatest generation. And when I was coming into business, a lot of the baby boomer generation as leaders, I never felt were their authentic self. So I was taught where I sold toilet paper was at Procter & Gamble, love the company, love the people. Everyone always felt fake to me. It felt like we were putting on a show. We wore suits and we come in and I'm like, hey, Anel, hey, how you doing, Matt? Nice to see you. How's business? Great. How's business for you? Good. Busy as I could be. Yeah. How's it going? Great. And I'm like, is everyone really like this? Like, I don't think they are. I know they're not, because I'm not. I'm one of you and I'm not like that. And so the first impression, when you try to make one, I think you're dead on arrival. If I show up as me, I have nothing to worry about. Now, if I show up as me and we don't click, that's good for both of us. The way I look at that, because we just shouldn't click, because whatever, Bryan's too over the top, or he cusses too much, or, Angel's too smart for me. He makes me feel stupid. Or the opposite. Like, man, I love Angel. He asks great questions. I love hanging out with him. He gives me good energy, and then we connect. So for everyone's their authentic self, the right people find the right people. And we just don't have to worry about the rest. If we try to impress and try to make some sort of impression on people, I think we're in trouble going in.
Yeah, I agree. Unless you're Matt and you're wearing a Michigan hat, and then you're trying to meet a client that's an Ohio State fan. Ooh.
Hey,
I'm used to doing that. So this is the first year we've won. So I'm just like, hey, you guys beat us all the time, and we go with that. But I 100% agree, because like even with the first company I came out of college with, we weren't allowed to have facial hair at all. And I look like I'm 12 when I don't have facial hair. But you also had to wear a shirt and tie every day. And then on Fridays, you didn't have to wear a tie. And I was there for 2 years. Now, they did give me some of the best training I've ever had, but that's not me. I'm not a suit and tie guy. I'll wear a blazer with Yeezys, but that's just who I am. If you talk about building your brand, everybody knows that.
Yes. And I'll give Matt some credit on his Michigan stuff. The guy's tried and true Michigan blue.
No.
Even when they were getting their tails kicked for years, and he always came in, didn't he, head to toe in the Michigan stuff. So,
yeah, I'm not taking anything away. I'm just saying, if right now we had a client that was from, the Ohio State University.
Yes, that's great, Angel. Thank you for saying that too.
It'd be kind of hard, to bring him on board, right?
Totally.
So then I introduced them to Caitlin or Paul, because they, Caitlin went to Ohio State.
Truth. Right. There you go.
And then Paul's a big fan. So you try to make sure you line up the right ones and do that research before you meet them.
That's great.
That's where connections and goodwill, right?
Yes,
get you the right people. So let me talk about trust. How does that come to play when it comes to personal brand?
What a great question. I'm going to pull a little Brene Brown on you. Brene Brown's a popular speaker, woman from Texas. She got real popular with a TED Talk. She talks a lot about trust. I love what she says. She talks about trust being earned over a long period of time with very, very subtle behaviors and decisions and observations with others. So it's not like I come in and like, Matt, trust me. These little things happen in our relationship over a long period of time, and that trust gets built better and better and better and better and better. Or it goes the opposite way, these little interactions. And I think when Brene talks about that, I think some things are the smallest little things. They could be it could be an observation you make of how Matt might see me treat someone a certain way, and it builds trust. He might hear me talk to a stranger, like maybe someone's like looking for cash or money on the sidewalk, instead of me going, no, get a job. I say like, hey man, what's up? I'm happy to help you out. He observes that. He goes, There's a trust trigger there, or the opposite. I think we observe that all the time and don't realize we're observing it. I think it's built over a long period of time in little bitty chunks. And it can be stripped in one decision. That's the interesting part. It's built over time and can absolutely be squashed in one decision.
I got to say, we've all heard about microaggressions and all that. I call those micro impressions.
Oh, stealing that one. Thank you, Neale. It's great. Micro impressions. It's true.
Yeah. So Matt, how would you, from a sales perspective, how would you implement that, that first impression, that trust that you have to build from right off the bat, right off that first pitch?
I mean, for me and how I lead my team is making sure that they're themselves. I mean, because when you start faking who you are or trying to make a make-believe story or something else, you just get caught up with lie after lie after lie. And then you forget what you told them. And then they're going to say, oh, remember talking about this? And you probably won't. So if you start from the beginning, because even when I interview somebody, my first question is, when you walk into somebody's room, besides saying hello, when we did meet in person, right now we're starting to get back there, but besides shaking their hand or saying hello, what should the first thing you do be? And I'll give the answer on here, but it's literally so look around the room, understand what's in their offices. And did they go to, like Bryan's on there, he sees IU, you see, zebra, you see refereeing, or maybe there's Star Wars, or maybe there's your family, right? Talking about your kids and your universe, like any common ground you can get with them to lead a conversation, especially in IT. There's a lot of IT individuals that don't want to talk. Now there's a lot of IT individuals that do want to talk. So trying to be yourself and coming back to understanding what they want to find out about you as well. Now, also don't talk as much. I know Bryan's helped me with that over the years. Bryan and I have been together for 7 years, and slowly start the conversation so you have more of an ear than a mouth.
Interesting. Good. Interesting take. Yeah, that's good.
I like the idea of I want to add to that what Matt says. I think the drive, the internal drive is a sincere interest in others. That's the philosophical thing. And then that turns into, looking around, asking questions, but asking myself, do I have a sincere interest in others? And when I'm prepping for a sales call and I'm ready to go in, we call that intention. Do I have the right intention? Do I have sincere interest in the other person I'm about to talk to? Or am I hoping that I get a sale here? That's bad intention.
Absolutely. So speaking, kind of building off of that, how does having that successful personal brand translate to success for you or your organization?
I'll tell you that. And when I get stuck on a question, I always just go to always when you get asked a question, not always, almost always something pops in your head, but then you wait for something else and then nothing else comes. So you go with the first thing, the first impression part, the sales part, all that stuff. The moment that I get there, how I am is going to dictate how the whole thing goes. That's going to start with me versus externally to me, to somebody else. So that's my take. I think most salespeople, most business people don't examine how they are with their energy before they go into an interaction. And I think that's, if I'm coaching someone or prepping myself, that's got to be that first stop is, where's my energy? It has to be the one that takes the forefront. Most people prep the external stuff. They prep, what am I going to say? What am I going to ask? What's going to be my pitch? What's my deck look like? They pitch all the external stuff. How am I going to position pricing? That's all important. Beneath all that, though, is what's in here, head, heart, and soul stuff. That's where I think the answers are to your question.
That's an interesting take, because that takes me back to, when people talk about when you're going to make a public speaking event, how you present yourself to the public is basically the energy. You want to give them energy. You want to take them up a notch. If they're just sitting there and they're just looking at you like, oh, I need to get through this half an hour speech just to get out of here. But if you then mirror that energy, then you're more than likely going to not have a successful outing. But then if you're out there, energy, engaging the crowd, getting the first guy in the first row, hey, you tell me that, you tell me this. Now you're engaging. Now you're bringing their energy levels up.
Yes.
I was like, Bryan's taught me that, excuse me, for a long time. I mean, it's coming in. I still prepare for meetings, don't get me wrong, but I'd rather feel it how it goes in the meeting. It's so much better, so much more genuine, so much more authentic when you're in the meeting and you can how do you pivot? Because you're going to know when that person's not paying attention anymore. I mean, you're going to see it. And that's why, even on the Zoom calls, I make sure that I always have my video on. I want people to see me, and I ask them to do that. I mean, Bryan gave a great example in our peer group where one guy was eating a cereal and didn't want to turn his camera on.
Yeah.
And Bryan asked him, he's like, well, we eat breakfast at breakfast meetings anyways. Go ahead, man. I'll grab some cereal too.
Right.
But it's so much more genuine and authentic to talk to somebody that way versus thinking about the sell. Bryan's taught me this, and this is something that's changed my life over these last 7 years, as just being a connector and a networker more than anything else. How can I help you out? Because and Bryan knows me, I genuinely want to help whoever out. And even some of these stuff that I talk about that I do, it's not to brag. It's more about how can I help you get there? Because I want to do that.
You brought up business development, basically sales. So having that personal brand in that space, I'm going to ask you, Matt, how has that helped you, obviously on your current role with Mosier, but just in general as a business development manager, as a director for us here at Mosier, how does that help you?
I think the main thing is anybody that I work with, or anybody that my team works with, or anybody at Mosier works with, they generally know we want to help them. It's not we're in there to go raise bill rates, to go we got to make money. We're not a non-for-profit. But at the end of the day, they know that, I'm building a relationship with them. I may not work with them January of 2022. It may be January of 2024. It's the long term. So how do I keep that relationship and just check in with them? And, Shane White from Carter Logistics, one of the guys I've been friends with a long time. When I came to Mosier from my previous employer, I was like, I can't work with you because I'm a non-compete, of course. But he was like, we only want to do certain things like direct placements. He never thought he would work with us because of, I just didn't have that culture. And, I just kept in touch with him. Didn't talk about sales. We talked about his kids. We talked about, working out, CrossFit, things like that. And 2 years, he was like, I have this opportunity for you guys to help us. And he was like, you're the only person I've ever worked with that hasn't just called for, just try to, make that dollar. And he was like, you really built a relationship with me. And I was the first call that he gave. And that's what I try to teach my team, from our interns all the way up to our senior people, to do the same thing. And we don't want to be used car salesmen, because that's so many salespeople get that persona or get that negative energy towards them. And my team is, yes, we are competitive, but everybody genuinely wants to help our team together. And I know Bryan's helped me a lot with that. I know Bryan could probably piggyback off that too, with, working with everybody.
Yeah. There's an element here that I think we haven't talked about yet that's at play, that a little bit Matt said triggered a thought. A good brand is actually polarizing. And that means a good brand gives people enough information in its brand to let that consumer, the person, make a decision whether they want to be a part of that brand, buy it, consume it, or not. And when we talk about personal brand, I think we have to look at both sides of that. The goal is not to pull everyone in. The goal is to let everyone make the right decision to say, Matt's my guy, Bryan isn't. And that decision be a good decision for them, because he doesn't want people to be around him that don't want to be around him. Neither do I, neither do you. No one does. If I irritate people, I don't want to be around you. I don't want to irritate people. And I can't take offense to that either. I can't be upset about it, because I know there are people that maybe irritate me or I don't want to be around. And there's the opposite too. There are people that want to be around. So that to me is a really interesting thing to think about, is the polarization. A good personal brand should say, yeah, you're my person or you're not. And that's okay. Either of those things can live in the same space.
So how would you suggest somebody that's listening to this that might be going through that process right now? How would you suggest they, for lack of a better term, cut ties or explore, we're being that's honest great. Here.
Yes, for sure.
You explore the opportunity of just moving forward with just a different mentality.
Yeah, different person or different. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Well, you just said the answer, what you said on Hell's, which is it's got to be a mentality shift first. There's also the idea that everyone already has a personal brand. You just don't call it that. And it's your personality. And if you want to figure out what your personal brand is, all you have to do is ask 10 of your friends to describe you. That's all you have to do. Tell me about Angel. Tell me about Bryan. Tell me about Bryan. Tell me about Matt. Ask 10 of your best friends. They'll tell you like what, and they'll tell you the goods. Your best friends will tell you the goods and the bads. So your personal brand is already built. So that's the my side of it. Then the other side, if I'm around, if I'm thinking, I'm in these relationships, or it could be a business relationship or a personal relationship or a sales relationship where it's not serving me well, then I have to make the choice to make a different decision. I did this last January. I'm going to do it again, although it's going to be at a much less level. I was catching myself being triggered on social media by people who made me feel bad about myself, which is my problem, not theirs. I would see people doing things or saying things on social media, and I'd sit there and, oh, I'm better than they are. Why are they getting, how come 50,000 people are going to see them and no one's coming to see me? How come their podcast is bigger than mine? Mine's better. That's all my own inadequacies coming to play. So I had to ask myself, okay, if there are certain people that I'm the idiot who keeps listening to them, why don't I just turn it off? It's not their problem at all. It's me. So I did a social media cleanse last January. I cannot tell you how free I felt this year, because the people that are still in my close sphere of social media and branding, almost all to a person lift me up because I did such a good job. I've even forgot, there were a couple that popped in like on comments and other things. I'm like, how come I'm not getting this? Because I'm connected to them. Oh yeah, I muted them because they don't lift me anymore. And it's not offensive. And that doesn't mean that they're right, I'm wrong. I'm the one with the ego problem, not them. They're just putting out good stuff. That's them in their own way. So that was really helpful to me. A very tactical thing people can do, a little social media cleanse. If feeds irritate you or they don't lift you up, just mute them. You have to unfollow them. Just mute them.
That's a great piece of advice. I mean, anybody from a personal or professional standpoint probably can get behind that.
Yes.
Oh, I agree. It's like keeping up with the Joneses. That's what Instagram's done.
Yes.
Right. It's all these people. They don't post the bad stuff. A lot of them don't. Right. They're not going to put out there their bad energy. No. They're only going to put everything that's good, from getting a new handbag to a new house to remodeling to traveling. Right. And then people are like, well, why can't I do that?
Right. How come?
And you can, but it's just, it may take you a little longer to get there.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's not what you want to do. Right.
Yeah. I did it starting off this conversation because my wife and I go stay at the Cosmo the first weekend of March every year. And I'm like, oh, it must be nice, And I saw that because I saw Matt's Instagram post. He's just sharing where he is, and the whole thing. But what I'm not seeing is that his wife's there with him. She's pissed at him because he's got to do this interview or whatever. He's too tired. He doesn't want to be here. We're not seeing that part of it. We're seeing the beautiful view of the fountains.
She's in the other room, door closed.
Whatever. You know what I mean?
So we can go have lunch because it's 11:30 here.
And the room's a mess or what. I mean, no one sees that stuff. We just see, look, the fountains. Wow, those are great.
Yeah.
Funny. It's true though, isn't it? It's true. We all do it.
It's very true. Yeah, we all do it in some form or fashion.
In some form, yes.
So we can finish this off and we can let Matt go have lunch.
That's
very
right.
important.
Yeah.
You got to score brownie points there.
Yes.
So speaking of sales professionals, I want to end this on this note. So what skills should a sales professional have for the future? What would make them successful? What addition to their skills would make them successful?
This is a very buzzy topic right now, and I'm bullish on a couple things. Everyone has to get comfortable here. Number one, everyone has to be comfortable selling through video camera. Everyone's going, I don't like the camera. I hate Zoom. I'm going to go back to face-to-face. Good for you. It's not going anywhere. Everything from the health and the COVID and all that jazz, but now to efficiency of lack of travel. I don't have to spend all this money traveling around. And I'm a face-to-face guy. I'm not saying I'm not, but if you can't look at the green light and the camera and have a good presence and have good lighting and a little around you with really nice microphones, you're going to get caught. I'm telling you, I don't care what you sell. You've got to invest in this, even the technology that you have, that I have, the microphones, the experience, there's lighting around here, that's made. You've got to be able to sell to the camera. That's the first thing. Second thing is you have to get comfortable with now this is the external social media. So you have to get comfortable with selling and connecting electronically via social medias, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram, that's going to continue to be a part of the sales process. And those who have not, and I'll just stick with LinkedIn because it's the easiest and the one that's the most about business. The people that still dabble in LinkedIn are going to get blown by. You have to learn to execute on LinkedIn and do things and leverage it as the tool that it is, which is my favorite tool in business, hands down, versus just scrolling. Scroll. That doesn't work. You've got to get intentional about it. Those are my two big ones: selling to video and specifically selling through social, but LinkedIn.
I 100% agree, because I think, even these conferences are going to be, 50-50. They're going to be people that feel comfortable going on site, and then some people that want to be over video. But I think the biggest thing too is get outside your comfort zone. Because there's a lot of people they want to stay, let's say it's in their little bubble or whatever it is. They don't want to get outside it. Well, to grow, you're going to have to get outside it. You're going to have to go talk to other people, understand what they do, and then flip that into what you think's best for yourself. Because everybody can give you advice, but You only want to take the advice that you can make sure that you keep your own, go back to the brand thing, keep your own, it's your brand though. You're like, oh, I like what Unhill said. I liked what Bryan with an I said. I liked what Bryan with a Y said. I'm going to flip all three of those to way I'm going to deliver that. And I think that's is key for everybody. It is learning from everybody. You should be a forever student, no matter what. Bryan taught me that. I think our peer group, we all talk about that. We're all, until if you think you're at the top, you should no longer be there, because you're never going to be at the top, no matter what. I don't care if you're whoever you are, that, you know, the biggest CEO out there to, you know, the intern. Everybody has growing to do, no matter what.
Yeah, I love all the bits of advice that you guys have just given, because Bryan, just to go back to your first piece of advice, you talk about people having to get comfortable with the camera. Just what we were talking at the beginning about what you have on camera, what we see. You talk about displaying and being your personal brand. What you have behind you is personal brand. Is what you believe in. Is what you trust. And then the social media aspect of it, as you mentioned with LinkedIn, that's something that I'm curious about, because I enjoy LinkedIn a lot. I find myself actually enjoying it even more than the other social media platforms. I don't know if it's because the content is more geared towards business and not so much the other stuff, the other influx of news and things that we get in the other platforms, but I do enjoy it. How would you say people should leverage something like LinkedIn?
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone is on a spectrum with LinkedIn. I was a really early adopter, not because I'm some visionary. I just got on there. I was a kind of social media junkie anyway. And I'm like, this was the newest, best thing. I got on, you know, when they were less than 1 million users, I think. They're up to, I think, 850 million users now. Organically, I've got, I think I'm almost to 17,000 connections, and I've accepted every one of them or sent every one of them. So I'm not this like, you know, open networker, accept everybody I get screened with. And what I found is the number one magic trick to LinkedIn is persistence. You just figure out an intentional way to engage on LinkedIn on a regular basis, meaning daily. You can't lose in the long term. If you go pedal on, pedal off, or you dabble or whatever, it doesn't work for you. So what I love to think of when people say, I found myself enjoying LinkedIn, or they say I like LinkedIn, or I'm learning a lot, is I love people to say, like, I use LinkedIn. It's my number one tool. And to do that, you have to put a plan together. We actually have a planning document I can send to you guys, a LinkedIn planning document that basically just puts everyone on the spectrum wherever they are. Even it starts, if you don't have an account, we'll put you on the spectrum, right? Step one, open an account. You have 150 connections. We'll put you on, you know, some people have 17,000 connections and put 19 videos a day up. Wherever you are, doesn't matter. We just put this little plan, and all you do is execute the plan. You have to be intentional about it. So we teach people to say, okay, I'm going to do 2 LinkedIn videos per month, every month for the year 2022, every month. So I'm going to say, you're going to do a thoughtful comment. You're going to do a passive comment. You're going to ask for 4 connections a month via connections on LinkedIn through your conquest list. Very prescriptive behavior that you can say you did or didn't do. That's how to use LinkedIn, not just like dabbling.
And Matt, I like your piece about being, you know, just being there. This has been such a fun conversation. I know that we got to go, but gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Bryan, it was a pleasure to have you with us. Just a great breath of fresh air to bring here to Ask You Anything. Thank you very much.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on the show. We'll talk toilet paper next time. How's that?
I love it. All yes, right. Please.
Cheers.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening in to this week's edition of Ask You Anything, presented by Mosher Consulting. We hope you enjoyed listening to our guests, Matt Wren and Bryan Neale, talk about the importance of building your own brand. Join us next week when we continue to dive deeper with our resident experts and what they're currently working on. And remember, if you have an idea or a topic you'd like us to explore, please reach out to us through our social media channels. In the meantime, please remember to give us a rating and subscribe to our feed wherever you get your podcasts. Until then, keep building your personal brand. So long, everybody.